What's going on? Here we are at Donkeyman Records Caravan, and we got a special guest here with us. Brother, friend, overall badass producer, Simon. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, dude?
Yeah, all right. And so we wanted to have a chat with Simon about the production of Temple of Sorrow, the approaches that he took, the sort of the cogs of the machine, if you like, how he sort of went about it. So what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Just recording, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, just chilling in this caravan studio.
Yeah. And how cool is this place, huh? So,
yeah, it's awesome. Man.
So we are actually in a caravan. Believe it or not, I mean, it's obviously hard to see, but which has been converted into studio. Temple of Sorrow. I mean, what was? I obviously came to you, and I guess we were sort of off touch, at that point in time. And I came to you with sort of an idea, a couple of riffs. What was the first thought that you had in mind when I obviously played the riff and talked about the album?
Well, at first I thought, oh fuck, here we go. Let's see what this is going to be.
Yeah. You thought I was going to play
because I didn't
or something,
I didn't know you played guitar.
Yeah.
Like I knew that you were learning, but I didn't know that you were, playing guitar like metal.
Yeah.
And then you showed me. We sat outside here and
that's right.
Just plugged your amp in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty awesome. What caught my attention was the whole, I suppose, Eastern. East Asian type.
Yeah, the sort of that exotic,
Hindu,
riffs and all that.
Stuff was pretty cool, and your whole vision of it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's is there when an artist comes to you, right? With now it could be me with my idea, it could be someone who wants to do a rap song, could be anything, R&B, indie. What's your sort of process like? Do you because obviously producers have different approaches that they take. Do you sort of take the seed of the idea and put your sort of twist on it, or do you like sort of kind of hold the hand and take them through the journey? And what's sort of your process like, if from an idea to?
Yeah, well, I suppose when you say like I put my twist on it, it's more as cheesy and corny as it sounds. I like to do what's right for the song.
Yeah. And
if I think the song needs something else, then I'll try it. And if I think it needs something less or take something else, then we'll try it. But I don't necessarily go and add stuff just for the sake of it. Just to say that that's my spin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, doing hip hop is a lot different to doing metal. I suppose metal's a lot more. Hip hop's freer. Like people don't really care too much about the track. It's more about the lyrics and the delivery and the flow. Whereas metal, you've got solid metal drummers who want to know everything about drums, and same as guitarists. Like you got quick bands out there who just fucking love guitar and and then you got I suppose vocals isn't overly. It's not not like hip hop. It's not a main focus of a metal song necessarily. I mean, some bands it is, but when you think of the genre metal, you're not thinking beautiful words, beautiful voice and shit like that. Like you're thinking heavy guitars, fucking double kicks, and heavy
tempo
bass,
changes and solos
and all that shit. And
generally darker content too.
Exactly,
compared to other genres.
Whereas for hip hop and stuff, you're kind of focusing purely on the flow. I mean, there's people who like the beats.
Yeah.
But again, the beats is as a whole.
Yeah.
It's the instrumental and then there's a vocal. Whereas metal, you're kind of splitting it up. You got your guitars, you got your drums and bass.
Yeah.
And people will isolate those.
That's right.
In their mind, I suppose they'll listen to that. Whereas a beat, you listen to it as a whole kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's when it comes to metal, I take instrument by instrument. Make sure everything sounds good, clean.
Yeah.
Make sure you know your parts. But yeah, that's basically my approach to.
And one thing I really liked about you approach to this one, as Simon said, like you said, you really maintained that originality. I guess the version, you as a producer, you could have completely changed it into a different animal. You could have said, no, don't do this, don't do that, we'll do that, because that's either what you had in mind. But what I really liked was the album which came out is no different to the riff that I played, except it's a better version. It's improved. There were areas like the instrumental summoning of Bagu, right? You added heartbeats there. And so you basically kind of added the icing on the cake to sort of improve it, but not to change the
because
the base of it.
The riffs again in metal, riffs are supposed to kind of stand by themselves and talk by themselves, and their riffs are what makes a metal song iconic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so when you start fucking around with that, and it takes away.
It takes away,
from the song.
And
especially with this album, like you got some pretty strange and different riffs.
That's right.
I reckon,
And it's I guess it's sort of probably a little bit different to the type of artist that you worked with when I came on board as well. I know you obviously have a metal background. You've been in a metal band.
Well, I grew up on metal. Like it's I grew up. Well, I didn't really grow up on metal, but when I was at uni, I was in metal bands and whatnot, and listened to a lot of metal. And then when I graduated uni, when I finished all that, I got into. I suppose it kind of got lighter and lighter, so I started going into rock, hard rock, and then blues, and then all of a sudden it flipped to rap and hip hop. And
do you feel that? Did you either subconsciously or consciously added any other elements of other genres into when we were making this album?
Yeah, well, I mean that.
Some bit of groove, I guess, sort of, rap.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. That metal, the instrumental, what was called?
Summoning of Babel,
that one's got, I don't know, it's more like a, I don't know what you call it, but the like that, with that riff over it.
Yeah.
That one. So that one, I suppose you could probably turn that into a hard EDM song.
That's right, yeah.
And that was kind of like what I'd heard when I first started. I'm like, that could be a really sick EDM song or something.
And I remember it's, I guess I sort of came from a very traditional way of looking at a record where, to me, it was sort of, you see the cover of an album, right? Like the old days, like even 80s, 90s, you run up to records, so nothing on the internet, and then you kind of have your first impression from seeing that cover.
Well, that's another difference between, like, I suppose old school hip hop was like that as well, but new hip hop and new music in general is just song by song.
Yeah.
Whereas back
do you think is that a just going with the times, or do you think do we lose a little bit of that appeal
that's purely because of streaming services. Because now, I mean, the ability to skip songs, to choose whatever song you want to play, has thrown the concept of an album out the window.
So I guess it's no longer a journey now, isn't it? Like it's sort of
and if you choose it,
and like that's something that's like with metal. I feel like it's still a big thing though. Is that metal fans like albums, as opposed to like, I don't know, I suppose
just one or two songs with a big chorus and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you look at the album as a song itself.
Yeah.
And then you've got each song in the album.
Yeah.
As an instrument, I suppose.
Yeah.
To kind of fill in what the whole story is.
Yeah.
If that sounds cool.
Especially because of the lyrical content and all that stuff. I mean, I guess it varies, but the when a metal musician sort of approaches an album or a song, I think they don't kind of have that mindset where it's an R&B or song where this is going to be the next chart buster or whatever. I mean, I'm sure we would love it to be, but I think we are sort of being honest to ourselves. Okay, we come up with a good riff. Okay, what fits here lyrically, and sure. Sort of kind of build the song from there. Whereas maybe R&B or something, maybe it's a little bit different. You see a nice sort of chorus and then kind of work backwards. You know what I mean?
The writing process is definitely different.
Yeah.
So you'd start off with a riff, whereas I don't know, if I'm writing a hip hop song or an R&B song, I'd probably start off with. Depends on how I'm making as well. If I'm using samples, then I'll find a sample that kind of sparks some kind of inspiration, and then from there I build around that. But it's definitely, there's no riffs as such in other genres.
That's right.
Like there is in metal.
Yeah, riffs sort of the meat of the pie sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, anyone who wants to do a metal record with you, someone's watching this. What would you say to them? If they want to approach you with an idea for a metal band or metal album? What do they need to bring to you so that you can kind of?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, if it's a band, like it's a bit difficult to record a band in this caravan, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've got a room, we can always set up the drum in a different room.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. But I suppose the key thing to keep in mind when, I suppose this goes with anything, is to make sure you know your songs.
Yeah.
Because it just makes everything so much easier. If you can just sit there and just be able to play it from back to front, you know, as fast as you can, or
makes your life easier too.
Yeah, it just makes the whole process easier.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing when you're going into studios. You just got to know your songs.
Yeah.
And if you're going into the studio without knowing the songs, like I suppose like you came in with just the riff.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I suppose you got to let the person know.
That's right.
And then
that's
it becomes
right.
more of a collaborative effort rather than just a sit down that's record.
Yeah. And you obviously had few experiences in that past where I remember you telling us obviously no names, but they changed the song halfway or they didn't like, you know.
Yeah. You get people who. Well, I mean, you always get people who come in and don't know their song and umming and ahhing shit, and it's like, I suppose it's if you're charging by the hour, it's their money, you know. They're just going to spend the money, whatever.
Yeah.
But then if you're not, and you're kind of like you've got a cap, then it becomes annoying because you kind of, you know, spending extra time on something that I suppose you've already been paid for.
That's right.
And that could be, it could be like, as much as people say that they don't, it's definitely a killer. Like, it's definitely like sucks the motivation out of an engineer or a producer.
Yeah.
If they're having to do extra shit.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all do it because we love it, but
yeah.
I mean, it can get frustrating at times.
That's right.
It can definitely be annoying.
Yeah, you want to just keep the process as lean as possible. You don't
Absolutely.
Basically you don't want to wear multiple hats where, you know, you say,
absolutely.
If you can take out.
I mean, there's nothing wrong though. Like you can, as long as you tell me, as long as it's mentioned that, hey, I've got these riffs. Let's turn them into a metal song. Then it's like, all right, sick. Let's do it. We'll come here. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It might take us this much. You know, just make sure you know the structure of the song. Make sure you know the riffs. Make sure you can play it well. And yeah, I mean then it's easy. Then it's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
If you know your shit, then it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah. It's basically just make the process easier for everyone. You know, just keep it simple, right? That's
exactly.
That's kind of the mantra, you know.
Absolutely.
And just to kind of, I guess, a final question for you, Simon. Let's obviously touch a little bit about the making of it, but let's talk about the life of a song after it's made. You know, I think that's an area where there's probably, especially in indie artists and all that, probably don't play, you know, give sort of emphasis for that part. But there's a whole kind of a marketing, distribution, world process that doesn't matter how good the song is. You know, if it's not distributed right, according to right streams. I mean, what would you say for someone like?
Well, you could have the best album in the world, and if you don't share it, no one's going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like it's just. You're putting out it's like basically throwing out a seed in amongst a million other seeds, or a grain of rice in amongst a million other grains of rice.
Yeah.
And hoping someone picks up your grain of rice.
That's right. Which is, you know, what are the chances of that? You know.
How you do that, how you combat that, I suppose, is, you know, you got to think about colouring in that grain of rice, making it stand out.
Yeah.
Taking it and duplicating it and putting it somewhere else in another grain of rice, another bag of rice or something, you know.
Yeah.
And I suppose that'll translate straight to like, making sure it's up everywhere.
Yeah.
Making sure you're constantly putting out content, if it's little snippets. Nowadays, it's unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. But you just content is key
because there's so many. I mean, it's sort of. I guess it's probably more challenging now for. It's probably easier to make now because
half and half. Like
it
was definitely harder back in the day for independent musicians. Because I suppose the record labels kind of owned everything.
They controlled the sort of the food chain, right?
It was all how much money you had back in the day. It was like if you've got, and now I mean, if you've got enough money and if your shit's good, you can definitely just pay for marketing and just get in front of as many people. But again, the key is to get people to listen. So you can put as many ads up as you want. If it's not captivating, if it's your copy's not right, if your cover photo's not good enough, people are just going to scroll
people
past
are just
it.
going to, and
we're living in the age of 15-second
short memory, you know.
You got to 1 second, you got to catch their attention.
Thanks for that all insights on making of the album, and we'll get in touch with Simon here. Where do we reach you, man? If someone's watching this, where do we reach you? Donkeyman Records, where do you find you?
Donkeymanrecords.com. Or your local church. I'll be there.
Local church. Yeah, he's the priest.
Yeah, that's right.
But now, look, thanks for that, and we look forward to making our album too with you as
man,
well. So we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to listen to it. Yeah.